The following is a special edition of Wrestling Unwrapped. And now, your host, Patrick Ketcha.
What the hell was that, Harry?
It's a special edition, man. We're never on this late. Okay, by this time, I mean, technically this show is coming to you at just a shade after midnight Eastern time. And as you all know, the normal Wrestling Unwrapped episodes usually go somewhere around 8:30 Eastern time. But to make it up to you, this special edition of Wrestling Unwrapped is to fill in for the episode of Wrestling Unwrapped to the Match, which would have aired in this time slot had any of the members of Wrestling to the Match been available. But that happens. Hey, Patrick, you remember how we talked about switching off with the guys on doing the pay-per-view reviews?
I was going to bring that up. Because we had brought up the idea before. By the way, hi, everybody. So, yes, technically this is a special edition of Wrestling Unwrapped / a special edition of Woo2M. He's Harry Broadhurst. I'm Patrick Ketza. And, yeah, I do find it kind of funny, the fact that a couple months ago, when the whole brand extension talk started, we had talked about the idea of having two separate crews, one for the Raw SmackDown, one for the Raw pay-per-view, and one for the SmackDown pay-per-views. Well, we had one for the SmackDown pay-per-view, and now he's got to get the one for the Raw pay-per-view. Because, of course, because reasons.
Well, you know, some things never change in this whole W2M network thing, which, by the way, this particular special edition of Wrestling Unwrapped is a presentation of the W2M network in association with our friends over at 401mania.com, as well as lastwordonsports.com.
Who?
We're actually on for this one because it's a pay-per-view review.
Oh, okay. My mistake. Sorry, guys from Last Word on Sports. My mistake.
And as always, they don't carry our regular show because our traditional top shows we cover aren't relevant, but this particular one is, so we'll probably be on there.
Alrighty, that works. And then, of course, if you want to hear more from us or the podcast or anything, be sure to check us out online at w2mnet.com. So, if you first want to... What?
Sorry, sponsor plug. In addition, as always, Wrestling Unwrapped is brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com for all of your wrestling needs. DVDs, action figures, magazines, books, VHS tapes, pretty much anything wrestling related, you can find it in the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com /Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase.
Thank you very much for that. So it is the first Raw pay-per-view of the new era, of the second brand extension. And with the fact that, personally, from what we talked about with the first SmackDown pay-per-view Backlash, Raw had quite a bit that they actually had to cover to try and surpass what Backlash did, because I thought Backlash was a pretty damn good pay-per-view. And we'll kind of find out tonight if Clash of Champions was able to at least pull even, if not surpass that. And I don't know about you, but I think we should just get this damn thing underway.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, 3 hours worth of material to cover, hour and a half time spot to do it with.
Yeah, and by the way, get it right, 3 hours, 7 minutes, 16 seconds. Time spot.
And that's not quite pay-per-view. And that's not counting pre-show, which, by the way, I don't really feel the need to talk about it because it was kind of not relevant. It was exactly what we all thought it was going to be. Nia Jax over Alicia Fox in like 4.5 minutes with a Samoan drop. Because apparently in 2016, a Samoan drop is a finish.
Yeah, which I find weird that they're not using her, leg drop that she used in NXT, but whatever. I do like the fact that real quick, I do like the fact that Nia Jax is moving up. Now she's beating no jobbers.
I would point out that the reason she's not using the leg drop, brother, is pretty obvious, but that's just me.
Probably. But cousin uses the Samoan drop. But also cousin uses the Samoan drop. Sorry.
I will say this much, though, as far as that whole Nia Jax thing goes. I actually kind of dug her fireman's carry to fall forward slam. I don't know why she's not using that. Maybe, is it possible she hurt somebody with it? I don't know. I haven't heard anything one way or the other, but I actually thought for a girl her size and with her relative attributes that the finish she'd been using, that fireman's carry fall forward slam, worked out pretty well for her. That was just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's always 100 different reasons, or 100 different possible reasons that somebody could not use it. But at this rate, I think we've actually talked too much about this match. But Nia wins.
100% agree. Let's move on to the actual pay-per-view card itself.
And kicking things off here, I'm sure I know a lot of people are going to be pleased with this one. I mean that sarcastically. The New Day, Big E Langston and Kofi Kingston put up Raw Tag Team Championship against Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson again. New Day looking to become, I believe, only the second tag team ever with a 400-day title reign. If they win tonight and they get to tomorrow, well, now tonight, if you're on the East Coast, will mark day number 400 as tag team champions.
I believe it would be them in Demolition, if I'm not mistaken.
Demolition are the record holders, and after all is said and done, to steal a line from some people who usually host this, New Day ends up getting the win, which I find a little odd. You know, I think a lot of people kind of thought that this was the club's night, that this was going to be the interesting night to win the tag team titles. But it is not meant to be as Xavier Woods uses Francesca to help. I believe it was Gallows into the Midnight Train, and New Day ends up picking up the victory. Wait. Oh, God.
What did you just call their finisher?
I had a hunch I said that wrong, and I was hoping to get by it.
Midnight Hour.
Thank you. I was hoping that you wouldn't have noticed, but I realized I was trying to slide that by the wrong person.
Yeah, well, as an announcer, that kind of stuff annoys me. So, yeah, their finish is called Midnight Hour.
Sorry.
It's okay. As far as the match itself goes, only about 7 minutes, but a very hotly contested 7 minutes, I thought. I agree with you in that I found it odd that they actually didn't pull the trigger on the title switch, and it almost makes me question as to whether or not they're going to let New Day break Demolition's record for the longest reigning tag team champions of all time.
They still have
50 days left.
It would depend on when WWE Roadblock is, but as of right now, New Day would have to make it to Tuesday, December 13th to tie. Wednesday, December 14th would be day number 479, because Demolition's record is 478. And that's with the WWE World Tag Team Championship, the old one. That's the single longest reign of any tag title. So they have to get through at least 2 pay-per-views, maybe 3.
Yeah, Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series for sure. I mean, Survivor Series you can kind of work your way around by doing the Survivor Series traditional tag team match.
Yeah.
That's traditional Survivor Series elimination match. But you would almost think with the way that Xavier Woods got involved, leading directly into the finish tonight, that it may very well lead to the tag team titles being contested inside of a cell at Hell in a Cell to prevent the interference of one Xavier Woods this next time.
Yeah, but the problem is if you're going based on interference, you kind of had an interference-happy night. So using the logic you just said, we could potentially see as many as 3 matches inside the cell, one of which I know you and I have already discussed, even though tonight would push my point even further. We'll get to that when we get to that match. But for now, I'm still surprised that they did not give it to the Good Brothers. And yeah, I almost feel like few pay-per-views left. Maybe they do something on Monday night, December 12th, if New Day hasn't lost it by then. But I don't know that I see the movement to anybody now.
I'm almost saying that Gallows and Anderson still have to be the number one contenders to the tag titles after the way everything went down tonight. At this point, though, you're kind of running the risk of Ziggling them in that how many times can they lose an important match before they become irrelevant?
Yeah, there's no doubt. But the second problem is, who would take them off?
Well, let's wait until a little bit later in this card, and I'll give you another option.
I think I may know where you're going with that. But before we get there, let's get to the next match. And that is for the newly christened WWE Cruiserweight Championship. As T.J. Perkins, TJP himself, has his first title defense against, of all people, Brian Kendrick. Brian Kendrick versus T.J. Perkins in 2016. Do you ever think that would happen?
No. But for a different reason than you're probably thinking. Could I see Kendrick on a WWE pay-per-view in 2016? Absolutely. And the WWE clearly has a lot of faith in Kendrick because he was the one entrusted with the services of one Eva Marie back when she was trying to train to become a wrestler before this whole Adderall wellness violation, yada, 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 yada. Her boyfriend needs to shut the hell up situation. My
question. Why would you still trust Brian Kendrick after that?
Eva Marie, he did a decent job with Eva Marie. You can only work with what you have there, Patrick. Anyways, back to this particular match. So, A, I never thought I'd see T.J. Perkins get promo time on a WWE show. B, I never thought I'd see T.J. Perkins call T.J. Perkins on a WWE show. C, I was not a huge fan of this match. And the reason I say that I was not a huge fan of this match is because I think Kendrick's style of wrestling, and specifically his more ground-based heel style that he's been using during the CWC as well as what we saw in that four-way on Raw last week, doesn't lend itself to what they want the imagery of the new Cruiserweight division to be. It lends itself more to their era when, like, Chavo Guerrero was Cruiserweight champion, rather than when you had the exciting guys like Paul London, Rey Mysterio, and people like that holding the Cruiserweight title. I think, I almost say, and I stand by this because I remember watching the four-way on Raw, I think Cedric Alexander may have been the way to go there. Because then you could have had TJ and Cedric have a good hard-hitting match and put TJ over, and a loss wouldn't have done anything to hurt Cedric. And at the same time, you could have had a much more exciting match on the pay-per-view in order to establish the division.
The problem that I see are, though, with that, you're absolutely right. I think, I do think Cedric, because I think Cedric would be a better place because, especially with the fact that I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't know that Cedric Alexander is physically capable of having a bad match. And what you have? Huh?
Clearly not from what we've seen of his WWE run thus far.
No kidding. But not only that, you have the rumors that the WWE wants to tone down the cruiserweight matches. You know, especially, he nearly had a scary injury tonight. There wasn't even a cruiserweight match. But, so, if they do want to tone it down, I can kind of understand why they would give it to Kendrick, use it more ground-based. Now, make no mistake, this was still a very fast-paced, high-intensity match. But those that are going to watch WWE Cruiserweight matches in 2016 and think we're going to get the Cruiserweight matches of 96? Bad news for you. We're probably not going to get that. And I have a hunch that we're going to get more mat-based kind of Brian Kendrick-style matches, except for maybe the pay-per-views. And with that, even maybe only the big four pay-per-views. Now, as far as this match goes, I'm totally fine with it, honestly. I thought they still had a very, very good match, and it's obvious that this is only the beginning. And with the fact that now, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, somebody else, Jack Gallagher, all just had their final match, their final independent matches at the Progress Wrestling show. It happened, I believe, Saturday night in England, so Saturday afternoon here in America. With the fact that they just had those, you have to wonder, how are things going to change? I have a hunch that the only reason they gave it to Kendrick was scheduling. I don't know if Cedric was busy or something. I know he worked main event, so they're using him already. So, I can see where the problem would arise with wanting to use Cedric, but he's the kind of guy I think you stay for a special moment. The debut on Raw would be a special moment. A Cruiserweight title match at Survivor Series, one of the big 4 pay-per-views, that would be a special moment. So I can kind of see why they would give a relatively big pay-per-view not a guy like Cedric
Alexander. I mean, to an extent, I understand what you're saying about that, about why you would have Kendrick getting this title opportunity rather than somebody like Cedric. But at the same time, I feel like if you really want to establish this cruiserweight division as something major, as something fans are going to want to take a look at each and every week on Raw, then you needed your first title match for that division on pay-per-view to be a blow-away match. And frankly, in my opinion, this wasn't a blow-away match. I wouldn't say it was a bad match, but I don't think that Kendrick was able to provide the kind of match that most fans are probably expecting from the Cruiserweight division, especially those fans that did watch the CWC on the WWE Network.
Is there enough letters for you?
Yeah, really, no kidding. All right, let's move on.
So, yeah, indeed. So, DJ Perkins wins, and gets a headbutt for his troubles as well for Brian Kendrick, which tells me that they will continue on, I guess, to either Raw or Hell in a Cell. And then following that, because not every match can be a title match, although you get 5 titles on your show, we get the final match of the best of 3 series between Cesaro and Sheamus. Sheamus
I'm pretty sure Cesaro and Sheamus were having a best of 7, sir.
What did I just say? Best of 5?
Best of 3.
Well, technically, if you want to include the 2 matches that they had before the series started, you could say best of 9, because they were still tied for 4.
Okay, stick to the storyline that's at hand.
All right, fine. I meant to say, I said best of 3, and I meant to say tied at 3 in their best of 7 series. She was originally having a 3-0 lead in this and looking for a sweep until Cesaro was able to make the comeback here, first using some unsavory tactics to get his first win, and then his next 2 wins coming both in London, I believe, to tie the series, or one of the wins coming in London to tie the series, and the final one coming this past Monday on Raw, setting up this match. The winner of this series getting a title match. What title? We still don't know. Because they only said title. They didn't say what kind. And I'll say this. This was a very hard-hitting, very stiff match, which you kind of come to expect when you see Cesaro and Sheamus get into the ring. And they were actually having a pretty damn good match until the ending, when Cesaro clotheslined Sheamus over the barrier and into the crowd, taking somebody out, I might add. And in the end,
the person they took out was a ringside attendant. It wasn't actually a fan.
They took somebody out. Who cares? But they take out a ringside attendant, or ringside, whatever you said. I'm tired. I think we both are. They take out a person at ringside with them as they go over the barrier, and the referee throws the match out. So the best of 7 series ends with both wrestlers having a record of 3-3-1. So, to me, this seems like they're going to finish it on Raw, but there's probably something we also have to go back and mention, and that would be very, very scary dive that Cesaro made to the outside on Sheamus, which I do have to ask you a question about this in just a moment. But Cesaro taking just a tope suicida, and I don't know if he just did not get the lift he wanted or what, but he ends up going head first, eerily reminiscent to a couple of Big E's dives over the past few pay-per-views, and I would say very, very close to the dive, the famous dive from Lita onto Trish, where Lita nearly killed herself. And Cesaro just ends up going head first right into the ground and spikes himself, and you can see his eyes bug out after. So I'm wondering if nobody was home for that. But for one, what do you think about the ending to this match being thrown out? And two, do you think they go with another match tomorrow, especially if something is wrong with Cesaro from the dive?
I have actually several thoughts on this finish here, and I mean, I can kind of describe them, but at the same time, I find it difficult to describe them as well. And the reason I say that is that I think that these guys both worked way too hard for this series to end up like it did tonight, and that's a product of an over-reliance and wanting to protect people rather than actually letting things happen naturally. And the issue you find with that is that when you try to overprotect people there, and you have these kind of 50-50 booking situations, eventually people start tuning out towards those kind of matches, especially if they know that the screwy finish is on the horizon and such. And like my biggest concern about that whole thing right there, specifically with the way that we did end this match here, is that this was a best-of-7 payoff that you had been building over the course of the last month and a half on Raw, and then you went with the screw finish at the pay-per-view rather than actually giving the fans a satisfying finish to the best-of-7 series. Where do I think this finish is going? You mentioned Raw tomorrow night. I don't think so. I think this leads to Mick Foley making Sheamus and Cesaro a tag team.
Due to the tie?
Yes. And the fact that neither one of them was able to prove physical dominance over the other, so maybe they can prove physical dominance over everybody else as a team.
And that would be why they weren't specific about what title?
I'm just tossing it out there as a possibility, you know?
I mean, it would be interesting. The problem is, though, what kind of dynamic would they bring, considering Sheamus is very, very much hated and Cesaro is very, very much loved? It seems like with Odd Couple, well, real quick, it seems like with Odd Couple tag teams, there's still a lovable part of the bad guy and a hateable part of the good guy. But for the most part, nobody hates Cesaro for any reason.
I can think of one particular good guy, bad guy, if you want to look at it that way, tag team pairing in recent years that worked out very well for both participants. And I take you back to Team Hell No for that. Kane was a babyface. Kane was a face. Bryan was a heel when they formed Team Hell No and ended up turning both of them into like the biggest baby faces in the company.
But at the same time, Bryan was still pretty beloved even by the time they started Team Hell No.
I think Sheamus is beloved I think Cesaro is beloved enough that the fan base would cheer for Sheamus and Cesaro as a tag team. And you can go to the old classic WWE standby of tag team partners who hate each other.
But that's even a problem here. Remember, new era, same old crap.
Why are you ripping off King Ross?
How the hell did you know that was King Ross?
I follow What Culture.
Damn. All right. Well, I couldn't use the actual language he used, but...
All the same, gimmick infringement.
I'm sorry, King.
Damn well better be.
Oh, just wait. I have one more rip-off of him. Anyway. But yeah, so we're going to have to wait until tomorrow night to at least find out what's going to happen here. Like I said, a tag team is doable, but I just think the fans legitimately hate Sheamus too much, and they won't give it a chance.
There's a very strong possibility that you may be correct in assuming that. Because I think that there is a chance that the fans' dislike for Sheamus will get to the point that they won't be willing to give this a chance, and that's unfortunate because there is something to be said for the work that Sheamus and Cesaro put in over the course of this best of 7. And tonight's match was actually really good, despite the fact that, as we were talking about by text, that Cesaro decided to take the word suicide, and suicide died nearly a bit too literally this evening.
Yeah, that was just a very scary moment.
He needs to not do that again, much like Big E needs to stop doing that fucking spear.
Yeah, there's very little doubt about that. And also, what's with everybody actually doing that?
What did you think about the match itself other than the finish, though?
Other than the finish, I thought they had an absolute hell of a match. It seems like each match, and you can kind of expect that, but each match was getting better and better and better until you got to tonight. And you could even argue that this was, aside from the finish, you could argue that this may have been one of the best matches of the night. Just a very stiff, very hard-hitting match, which, like I said, you've come to expect when you get these two in the ring. And I mean, they were pulling out, quite a few stops. Sheamus was pulling out a couple moves that you haven't really seen from him before, and Cesaro just put everything out. And I mean, that even included both guys kicking out of each other's finishers. Cesaro kicking out of the Brogue Kick and Sheamus kicking out of the neutralizer. I think the only move that we didn't see was the Swiss Death, which was the pop-up European uppercut. Other than that, they almost pulled out everything that they had in their bag. So it was a damn good match to me.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I did want to point out real quick, too, is the fact that we actually did see something that you don't traditionally see in a WWE match anymore these days, and that was the both finishes being kicked out of, which I thought was an interesting way to go for it as well. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes tomorrow night on Raw. I feel like they deserve a better finish, a better end to the best of 7 than a double countout or a referee stoppage or whatever the hell they're going to call this. But at the same time, I can't say I was disappointed by the match until we got to the finish.
But isn't that usually the issue here? That kind of seemed like the trait of the night, which was good match, great finish.
For a lot of the show, yes, but for some of the show, no. And I think some of the show made up for the whole good match, bad finish thing. We'll get to that here in a few moments.
Are we talking about the next match?
Okay. I feel the need to make it known that I'm a Jericho mark, so Jericho going over Sammy actually doesn't upset me.
All right. So obviously our next match here kind of just seems weird, and I'll explain why I think it's happening in a moment. But our next match, the second non-championship match of the night, because like you said, 7 matches but only 5 titles. It is Kevin Owens' best friend versus Kevin Owens' former friend as Chris Jericho takes on Sami Zayn. It's the Battle of Canada.
I wonder what this match was all. What? I wonder what this match was all about. Thanks for making me have to repeat it.
All right. In a very kind of fast match, and Chris Jericho ends up beating Sami Zayn via the code breaker after what was actually a pretty long match. I should probably mention the official time, at least on the network, of the show, not including the preview, or not including the pre-show, was 3 hours, 7 minutes, 16 seconds. I counted the unofficial Wikipedia match times all put together was 1 hour, 46:56. So this show was almost legitimately 2/3 wrestling. And they put on one hell of a match here, which you almost have to expect with Sami Zayn now, because, well, he wasn't really put onto the SummerSlam card, but his previous two pay-per-views, he had match of the year quality matches. And a few months ago, I don't know if you're going to remember this, but a few months ago, we talked about a Chris Jericho match, and for the life of me, I can't remember which one it was. It was at a pay-per-view. I want to say maybe Extreme Rules, may have even been as far back as like Fastlane, where we talked about was time catching up to Chris Jericho finally. Because, you know, the Ageless One. For life, I wish I could remember the pay-per-view where it was. We said that because Jericho seemed to be slowing down a little bit. And I'm sorry, Harry, but you were in on that conversation. But
I do, and I actually think it might have been the Mania match against Styles when we had that conversation, although it was when we did our conversation about WrestleMania 32, which you can go back and listen to in the Wrestling Unwrapped archives.
It may have been that.
By seeing Jericho in the ring with guys like Owens and like Sami Zayn and like AJ Styles was making us realize that it was entirely possible that Jericho had lost a step.
I don't know where the hell Jericho has found the fountain of youth, but in the past couple of months, this has possibly become one of his greatest runs ever. And damn it, I mean ever. Because, yes, he is slowing down, but he's essentially using it to his advantage and is not trying anything stupid anymore. You know, not that you would expect Jericho to try and pull out a 450 or anything like that, but he's definitely shifted it to a different gear. And while I do kind of question why did Jericho win tonight, especially in what I thought was kind of a fluke finish almost. It's like he just hit the code breaker out of nowhere, to me anyway, and just won. So while that part seemed a little goofy in my head, getting to that point though, while sure, maybe he messed up the stepping on a tornado DDT or two, but Jericho has just absolutely rebounded, to me at least, and is able to pull off the quality matches like he was able to do in like 07, 08, 09. And I just wonder, where in the hell did this come from?
Honestly, I don't know what it is about Jericho that allows him to maintain this semblance of himself. And I think that's the most important thing that we need to realize when it comes to Jericho, is that he has this innate ability to stay true to who he is as a character. And I think with him having more fun with this character, and you can definitely tell that with this whole character that he's doing with Kevin Owens and stuff, that he's having more fun once again with this kind of a character, that he finds the ability to tap into that Jericho that works well with the younger generation, that works okay with his contemporaries, that is able to get those kind of matches that fans want to regularly see. I've never doubted Jericho's in-ring abilities. I've known that even at 3/4 of what he used to be, Jericho is still probably better than most of the current roster. But when Jericho is on his A game, I would argue that there might not be anybody on the roster better even now. And I mean that from a complete package perspective here. The only person that I would say is in Jericho's league from a complete package perspective is his on-screen best friend, Kevin Owens.
So are you saying that the two of them truly possess the gift of Jericho?
I'm saying that I kind of want to punch you right in the throat right about now.
Why are you not drinking it in, man?
Would you please shut the hell up? Okay, moving on.
I know, I don't want to sound like a stupid idiot anymore.
We've gimmick infringed enough here. Let's move on, shall we? I'm fully expecting to hear from What Culture's legal team by the end of this episode.
You hear from WWE's legal team.
Luckily, I don't think we will because he is your friend. He is your friend. He is King Ross. All right, moving on. Next.
But, okay, well, real quick, yeah, Jericho does pick up the victory. I find it a little weird, but...
Yeah, actually,
I think it'll...
You know what? I did want to touch on that real quick because we were talking more about what happened in the ring rather than the actual result here. This goes back to kind of the running theme on the night, though. Good match, questionable finish. And specifically being the fact that Jericho won over here. I don't understand why Jericho won this match. And I think part of that has to do with I was supposed to participate in the WWE Network's the website's pay-per-view preview. This was supposed to be my first time participating as I am an official member of the WWE Network staff here with Wrestling Unwrapped, and obviously us doing Wrestling Unwrapped to the max with the guys as well. Unfortunately, my schedule got in the way of me being able to participate, and the question I was supposed to answer was, does Sami Zayn need this win more than Chris Jericho? And my answer to that would have been yes, he does, because Jericho is at a stage in his career where he can afford not to win these matches and not lose anything from it, whereas Sami Zayn keeps losing these kind of matches, and he gets almost, as we talked about earlier, that Dolph Ziggler reputation of not being able to win a match that's important. They'll give him plenty of non-important victories. He'll beat all the Jinder Mahals of the world. He'll beat all of the, the whoever's on Raw or whatever, help me out here, the Darren Youngs, the Titus O'Neills or whatever. He'll beat all of them, but when it comes into a match with a bigger name, then we know not to take Sami as a threat, and that's a problem for a guy that the fans are so clearly, obviously behind.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I know you're going to have less of a gripe about it than me because you're a Jericho fan. I'm a Jericho fan too. But with the fact that he's coming off 2 match of the quality matches, one of which involved him beating the now WWE Universal Champion, spoiler alert, watch. It almost seems like Jericho's just supposed to be like hired goon of Kevin Owens as a means to try and prevent like the people that know that they can beat Owens from even getting a shot. Because it's really the only thing that I could possibly see. But I have a hunch, eventually we're going to reach a point where Owens or rather Zayn's going to look at Owens and go, hey, I beat you. And I didn't fair and square clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring. I think I deserve a title shot. It's always just going to go, well, you lost Jericho, so no title shot for you.
This is going to be one of those wait-and-see things as to why it happened the way that it did with Jericho going over tonight. Like I said, you said that even though I'm a Jericho fan, since I'm a Jericho fan, that I would be okay with this more than you are. No, I'm genuinely baffled over the fact that they put Jericho over tonight because of the fact that I think Sami needed this win more than Jericho did.
Yeah, so like it's I hate the fact that so many pay-per-views, it almost felt like parts of this pay-per-view were booked for Raw, taking a page out of Eric Bischoff's book, where it was booked a pay-per-view to get people to watch, the TV show the next night, and just throw the damn thing off. And just get the fans what they want at the pay-per-view. They already got your damn money. But that's neither here nor there. So moving on, it is our third championship match of the night, and it's the one that I actually had on the preview on W2Mnet, because of course I did. It is for the Raw Women's Championship as the champion Charlotte takes on Sasha Banks and Bayley in Bayley's second pay-per-view match. And I do like the fact that this triple threat match was actually closer to a triple threat match and not the usual booking of said match where it's kind of one-on-one and one waits outside. You did get some of that, but you did get quite a bit of three-person action here, which I loved and I thought was actually pretty damn good. Especially like Sasha attempting the double knees, only for Charlotte to get out of the way and end up making Sasha pay for it. It was nice to see Charlotte not nearly kill somebody, because I think that's the biggest issue I have here, is I kind of now watch Charlotte matches kind of cringing a little bit, because it seems like lately her work's gotten a little bit sloppier and sloppier. But after all is said and done, thanks in part to Dana Brooke, Charlotte ends up pinning Bayley, and wouldn't you know it, the exact damn thing I predicted in the preview. Bayley takes the fall, thanks to two big boots, and Charlotte ends up retaining the Raw Women's Championship. So what I want to ask you is, A, your thoughts on this match, and B, where do you think it goes from here now?
The logical answer to that is Charlotte and Sasha one-on-one while Bayley gets Dana, which is unfortunate for Bayley. We kind of had a discussion about this between the two of us. I don't think that Bayley's first title win should have been in a triple threat. So I'm okay with her not winning the belt here. That being said, when we discussed this match, I made the prediction that I thought that Charlotte was going to win, pinning Sasha to set up Charlotte and Bayley in a singles feud and officially finish off Charlotte and Sasha for now. I think that Bayley may end up with Nia Jax at some point sooner rather than later. But at the same time, Emma's supposed to be returning as soon as well, so it could lead to Bayley and Emma. There are other matches for Bayley to have, while they blow off Charlotte and Sasha, probably at Hell in a Cell.
Now, I want to bring this up to you again. And you should know exactly where I'm going with this.
I do.
Something we discussed earlier this week.
I know exactly what you're about to ask me. Go ahead.
I know it's unlikely as hell, but with Dana's constant interference tonight, it's starting to look a little bit more likely. I know it's still unlikely as all hell. Dana Brooke's constant interference ends up costing Sasha and Bayley the match for the most part. Does the rubber match of Charlotte and Sasha not only happen, but do we get it inside of the cell?
I know you want it to happen inside a Hell in a Cell, but no, it doesn't. I don't think we're at a point right now where the women are inside a Hell in a Cell yet. I think we may eventually get there, but I don't think we're there yet.
It's just the constant interference, because you have to admit, Dana interfered a lot in this match.
Oh, no, I agree. Much more than I probably thought was needed, too, and especially given the fact that it tied so specifically into the finish. That I didn't quite understand. But the bigger issue that I have here is the over-reliance on interference seemed to be a recurring theme of the evening as well.
Which I also bring back to you as well, because you mentioned that it seemed like the tag title match, because of the interference from Xavier, seemed headed for a Hell in a Cell. Well, here's the problem. You had interference in the tag title match. You had interference in this match. You had a little bit of interference in the U.S. title match, and you had a ton of interference in the main event. So going by your logic, 4 matches should be put inside of the cell.
No, it's 3 matches. This match, the tag titles, and the main event. And the reason I say that is because despite a certain person's interference attempting the U.S. title match, it didn't make any difference. And we'll get to that in a few moments. As far as the main event goes, I think we do see a rematch inside of Hell in a Cell between those two. And
yeah,
I think the cell doesn't play a factor as a certain person returns during that pay-per-view to set up Survivor Series. But we'll talk about that once we get to the main event.
Yeah. So, but back to the women's championship match.
Let's be honest here. I want you to be entirely honest with yourself here, Patrick, okay?
Okay.
Do me a favor and be entirely honest with yourself. Do you think the WWE feels that its Divas division, or its women's division, my apologies, it's course of habit, old habits die hard and all. Do you feel the WWE feels its women's division is at a point where they can sustain a Hell in a Cell match between the women? I would argue no.
My argument for it would be you have a rivalry that I think has reached a point where, yes, I think Sasha versus Charlotte could sustain. And not only that, imagine just the aura that it would have of a women's match being inside of a cell. I think that alone could sell that pay-per-view. However, I know it's absolutely unlikely. Most likely it won't happen. But maybe not this year, but do you think at some point in the future, maybe if they can get the women's division more off the ground, which to me, I think Raw's is actually doing very well. I would actually say Raw's is better than SmackDown's. And that sucks because I'm a huge Becky Lynch fan. Right?
Becky,
do you think 2017, 2018, they could pull off a Hell in a Cell match then?
We very specifically discussed this exact question in our text conversation earlier in the week, and I said I fully expected Divas again, old habits die hard. I fully expect a women's Hell in a Cell match in 2017. 100% expect it. I don't think that it's at the point where it'll happen this year, though. I don't see it. I want more of an extended build towards a Hell in a Cell match. Charlotte and Sasha have only been feuding on the main roster for like 2 months. That's not enough to justify a Hell in a Cell for them, in my opinion. And especially when you consider the fact that that would be the first stipulated match that those two have had. And this is my problem with gimmick pay-per-views in general, is that they create unnecessary builds towards matches that feuds aren't ready for. It's why I think
pay-per-view. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's why I think SmackDown got the better of the pay-per-view draws. They got Backlash, they got No Mercy. That meant no gimmick pay-per-views for SmackDown.
They'll have one in December, though.
Okay, but by that point, you'll have 4 pay-per-views that you can build up to doing those gimmick matches there. Whereas Raw had Clash of Champions here, which in my opinion is not really a gimmick pay-per-view. And the reason I say that is because most pay-per-views, all titles are on the line anyway at this point. It's 2016. But Hell in a Cell, it screws them.
I feel it won't happen. I know. Okay? I feel like, so, get Dana Brooke and Bayley out of there. I feel like Charlotte and Sasha could pull it off. And I mean this. I actually mean this. I feel like Sasha and Charlotte could pull off the first ever all-female Hell in a Cell. Is it true that, the gimmick pay-per-views kind of ruined the aura and the spectacle? Yeah, a little bit. Although the Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 28, when they still had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, still had the spectacle and the aura of it. It's now WWE trying to cash in on things they know will sell. People want to see Hell in a Cell matches. Well, now you're going to get one guaranteed, at least one every year. You know, people love the TLC matches. Well, now you're guaranteed to have one once a year. But I think it's better if it pops up and not be guaranteed. We know it's going to happen the night before Halloween next month. That's where the issue arises, I think. Now, if it was just a normal pay-per-view and they said, oh, hey, we're going to, you know, and something was naturally building towards a Hell in a Cell match and it just happened to be there, that's different. But, yeah, I can see the issue with building towards a pay-per-view where we know at least one Hell in a Cell match is going to happen. I absolutely see the issue.
So that's a conversation for us to have too, and this is something that me and you have talked about as well. And like, since they brought back the brand extension, the brand split, the separation, whatever you want to call it, me and you have talked about going back and reviewing some of the old original brand pay-per-views for Wrestling Unwrapped. And it's something for us to kind of talk about when we do this as well. Is the fact that since you didn't have the specifically gimmicked pay-per-views back then, you could use those kind of specialty matches to sell your single brand pay-per-views. Like imagine the allure of say WWE has, since Raw has No Mercy, imagine WWE Raw has Unforgiven in October. And then they build up. Everything between Seth and Kevin, the way that they build up everything between Seth and Kevin, and then they have as their selling point, oh, and by the way, Seth, Kevin, due to the fact that everybody seems to want to get involved, everybody seems to want to be involved in everybody else's business, there is one specific way in WWE we keep people out of each other's business here. 4 words, Hell in a Cell. Then I could totally just see the justification for that match happening there. But having that match inside of the cell at Hell in the Cell just because it's the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, I don't buy it. Sorry, I just don't.
Yeah, it needs a natural build, not a forced build, and this is a forced build, unfortunately, which sucks because, like I said, I love the Hell in the Cell matches. It's probably my second favorite. Give it, well, if you count the Rumble, third favorite then, behind TLC and the Rumble.
And yet we've never the Hell in a Cell DVD comp set. Interesting.
I feel like people would get bored. We'd be talking about 14 Hell in a Cell matches.
15, actually.
No, 14.
Well, I mean, each of the matches kind of had their own spectacle back then, though. Most of them weren't forced. Like, all of the Hell in a Cell matches that are on this set here had organic reasons for happening. Taker and Batista in 2007 Survivor Series? 2007 Survivor Series. That was like 8 months worth of build to that match. Because they met at WrestleMania that year. They met at Backlash, on to a no contest that year. That was 7 months worth of build into that Hell in a Cell match there. Not just, oh, it's October, so we have to have a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. We're getting kind of long in the tooth talking about Undertaker and Batista when we were originally talking about the women's triple threat. Long story short, yes, they need to get away with actually probably all of the gimmick pay-per-views, Hell in a Cell. I'm fine with Clash of Champions. I don't care what you say. To me, it's a gimmick pay-per-view. Get rid of TLC, get rid of Hell in a Cell, and actually, I think that's about it now.
Yeah, obviously, those are the two. Money in the Bank can stay because you can have a dual brand pay-per-view for Money in the Bank and have a Raw Money in the Bank match and a SmackDown Money in the Bank match. That would be fine. Those particular matches are kind of established for happening when they happen, and everybody knows the risk reward for those kind of matches. So that one I'm fine with. But as you said, I'm glad they got rid of the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. I think TLC and Hell in a Cell need to go. But that's my personal opinion. All right, back to the women's title match itself. What did you think about the match itself? I mean, other than Dana Brooks' interference?
besides that, why does it seem like Charlotte is so sloppy now? It seemed like she was a lot better in NXT than she is now. And the same sort goes with Sasha, and I don't think we've really seen enough of Bayley to see where she's going. But it seems like at times they're trying too hard, and it's causing them to mess up more.
You know what I think it is? I actually do have an answer for you here. You know what I think it is? I think they're more heavily produced in NXT, and I think the referees in NXT, specifically the ones that would usually work with the women in NXT, and I refer to Drake Wirtz as well as the head NXT referee down there. They had Triple H in their ear in NXT, helping guide these women through those matches. Then I don't know that we have that same process going on in the WWE, where there's such thorough guidance from backstage during the course of their matches. They probably get the same treatment with the agents that the rest of the talent roster does. Therefore, a lot more is up to them individually, and that's when tendencies towards over-perfection tend to sneak in. And when you're trying too hard to be perfect, that's when you screw up.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that, because it just, to me, it seems like, specifically with Sasha and Charlotte, it seems like now they're trying too hard, and it's causing them to actually mess up more. It almost seems like if they got more down to basics, they could get through a match without Charlotte nearly killing Sasha. I'm trying to remember, and I can't think off the top of my head. There was one moment in this match, I think it involved Charlotte and Sasha, as a matter of fact, and it was just like, oh no, here we go again. Is Charlotte going to try and kill Sasha? And, I mean, luckily, nothing major like what happened at SummerSlam happened tonight, but Charlotte, geez, you don't have to try that hard. You're going to end up killing somebody.
No, I understand where you're coming from with that. I get it.
So it's yet again another wait and see to see what happens with Dana's constant interference. I almost wonder if Dana's going to be the next Raw champion as a means of, like, forcing Charlotte to pay for her sins, and now she's got to face the person who's been helping her. It almost seems like they're headed that way.
I would argue that the more logical conclusion would be to have a four-way where Dana sneaks the pinfall victory to get the belt off of Charlotte. But at the same time, I don't think Dana's had any kind of credibility given to her in order to give her that title. Speaking of champions with no credibility, we call that a segue.
Our next match would be for the U.S. Championship. The United States Champion Rusev, like the ravishing Russian Lana in his corner. Take on the Golden Boy. What?
Did you watch Raw?
I did not.
The best part of Raw, after the steel cage match where Reigns inexplicably beat Kevin Owens after Rusev went to a double countout with Seth Rollins, which in and of itself was kind of a dead giveaway that Reigns was taking the title tonight. Rusev comes out after the match and attacks Reigns. And in my opinion, Kevin Owens, being Kevin Owens, has the best line of the night. He looks down at Rusev as he's attacking Reigns and yells at him, "Hey, Rusev, box to something." I could not stop laughing.
That one popped up on my timeline many times after Owens said it.
I could not stop laughing.
Unfortunately, Rusev
was
not
laughing
much.
Yeah, you know who wasn't laughing tonight? Rusev.
Yeah, because Rusev could not matchka Roman enough, and in the end, after, I think, 17 cheers, in reality, I believe it was 2,
and I believe about 14 Superman punches.
And Lana getting thrown out for not doing anything according to her.
Which, by the way, that was a stupid decision because she is the only one in that match that the crowd genuinely cares about.
I think in this case the crowd did actually care about Rusev only because they still hate Roman, which let me get to the finish real quick. In the end, after Lana gets thrown out, and after a second spear, or maybe third, Roman Reigns is now your new United States champion, joining the ranks of Harley Race and Ric Flair. And I could not say that line without a smirk on my face.
You know what my issue with this is? Even though it cost him his Universal title, or his WWE Heavyweight title, I guess, more specifically, since, the Universal title wasn't a thing when Reigns fought for the wellness policy. Dude violates the wellness policy and then gets a title reign out of it. In this particular instance, it's a U.S. title. Okay, granted, when Cena held the U.S. title, he actually made it mean something with the U.S. Open challenges. Do we see Reigns doing anything like that with this title? Or is this title on him as a placeholder until they decide to put him back in the main event picture, despite the fact that nobody wants that?
I'll take B for $6,000.
Yeah, probably. The unfortunate reality of the situation is probably.
And to be fair, this was not a bad match. Not great, but it wasn't a bad match.
It wasn't a good match. It wasn't a bad match. It was a match.
It was not the match, though, that's for damn sure. But here's my question. Why the hell couldn't we do this last month? Yeah.
Why couldn't we do this at SummerSlam? Because SummerSlam was already 20 minutes over with the Orton-Lesnar main event.
Okay, but the brawl that they had probably took as much time as a match would have.
My issue with this here is that it was so blatantly obvious that Reigns was taking the U.S. title tonight. And that had everything to do with the fact that for one of the very few times in recent WWE history, an episode of Raw went off the air with a heel standing tall. That never freaking happens. And usually when it does, at the next pay-per-view where said heel can get comeuppance, said heel gets comeuppance.
So Rusev no Machka tonight. Well, Rusev gets a Machka Lana tonight. No.
Rusev has Lana. I'm pretty sure he's a constant Machka.
Don't blame him. But
I'm just saying, if reincarnation is a thing, I want to come back as Alexander Rusev.
No kidding. As far as the match itself, I mean, it seemed like they kind of teased, but at this point, it also seemed like the crowd was pretty much out of it. Granted, look who was in the damn match. But I don't think it was really that bad of a match. I will say, I think Reigns has gotten better in the ring, and I'm talking even since, like, WrestleMania. Because him the WrestleMania main event, sorry, but it sucked. And I rewatched it, too. But it just, you're putting a guy that people are not supposed to like against a guy that people don't like. And you're expecting a huge hero's welcome. He didn't get a hero's welcome. Granted, he did get cheers when he won the belt, and he actually seemed somewhat genuinely happy to win the belt, even though it seemed like for him, holy crap, when did that belt shrink? Like, on Rusev, it looked fine. In Reigns' hands, the thing looks like a ring on my finger. which I found really weird. It's like they threw the damn belt into a dryer and it shrunk. But
I got nothing for that. I wasn't paying attention to the post-match.
Oh, okay. So, in the end, though, Roman Reigns is the new United States champion.
Whoop-dee.
That's the best way. So now we move to the match with the man. And the man who runs the show. For the WWE Universal Championship, it is the champion Kevin Owens against Seth Rollins. Two things before we even get started, though. I said that I was going to steal something else from King Ross. That thing is, it's Cole o'clock instead of John o'clock. Cole during Kevin Owens walking out. As Kevin Owens is walking out, Michael Cole says that in 1990, on September 24th, 1995, Kevin Owens' dad took him to the pay-per-view that night of In Your House 3. Wrong! Kevin Owens posted on Twitter, on September 24th, 1995, Kevin Owens' dad bought the pay-per-view. They did not go, they watched it on TV. It was the first ever pay-per-view that Kevin watched. And now tonight he main events his first pay-per-view. Second thing, did I hear wrong, or did Michael Cole say that the Universal Championship had been held by Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins?
I did not hear him say that, but in fairness, we were all kind of talking during that point, so I didn't hear a whole lot of what commentary had to say.
I could be wrong, but I could have absolutely sworn that they said at least twice that Seth Rollins had held the Universal title, which is 100% BS. The only ones who had held it were Finn Balor and now Kevin Owens. And vacant for 1 week.
Yeah, I was going to say, vacant's tied for the second longest reign ever.
No, vacant has the second longest reign ever. He held it for a week.
You're right, Finn Balor held it for 1 day.
Yeah, and I don't think they named another champion until the Raw. Okay, so you had SummerSlam, Finn Balor coughs up the title the next night on Raw. I don't think it was until the following Raw that they named a new champion.
You're right, so it's Kevin Owens did a month and a half-ish, vacant for 7 days, and Finn Balor for about 22 hours-ish?
Give or take. So once again, Kevin Owens putting up the belt against Seth Rollins. And to be fair, this match was kind of slow going at the start. And a lot of stalling, especially at the beginning with Kevin Owens, going to the outside quite a bit. And my God, is Kevin Owens, and I dare you to try and tell me otherwise, is Kevin Owens not the best trash talker in the company today?
You won't get an argument from me. Rusev, Matska something.
They call you the architect? You don't even have a foundation. I'm the foundation of this show. There were a couple times where I chuckled mightily at some of KO's lines.
Real quick, I also want to give Kevin credit for a really good line in his backstage promo as well. You realize that Seth Rollins is no longer the man. He was the mistake.
Very good line as well. So, yeah, Kevin Owens is definitely, I would put him up there as one of, not just the best trash talker, but one of the best talkers, period, in the company today.
I would go as far as to say he's probably the best talker in wrestling today, period.
And you really won't get an argument from me. So, the match does legitimately go almost a half hour. I know it went north of 25 minutes. And I mean, eventually they do really get going very hot and heavy. It was actually a very, very good match. And then Jericho comes in. Kevin Owens' best friend. And boy, does Jericho let you know that, by the way. That's my best friend. Especially, I think that was the last line we actually heard on the pay-per-view was Jericho going, "That's my best friend." I know Kevin Owens is heel. Sorry.
Real quick, there's an old joke between me and my group of friends, and it goes all the way back to Elimination Chamber 2009, when Edge attacked Kofi Kingston before the Elimination Chamber match and took his spot in the match. And then Ray comes in and starts banging on the glass of the chamber that Edge is in. And the running joke amongst me and my friends is that as Ray was banging on the glass, he was yelling, "You hurt my friend!" And that's kind of what I envisioned Jericho yelling tonight as he was trying to go after Seth Rollins.
I could see that entirely. But, I mean, this match definitely was I would go as far as to say probably one of the best matches of the night. The main issue I had, yet again, with the theme of the night, and I think I almost feel like at this point I was just numb to it. Great match. What the hell on the end? And especially, yet again, for the third match tonight, you could kind of argue the fourth if you include Lana, interference. Over half of the matches had at least an interference spot. Would you at least call Lana an interference spot?
Yeah, she pulled the referee out of pinfall, yes.
Okay. That means over half of your matches, or exactly half if you want to count the pre-show, which why the hell would you, had an interference. And I'm sorry, but no show should have that much interference. It seems like they put this entire show, A, to get to Raw tomorrow, and B, Hell in a Cell's coming up yet again, like we talked about with the women's triple threat. And it's just like, at least this one made sense. You know, with Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens being, best friends and blah, blah, blah. But at this point, I was sick of seeing so much damn interference, and then Stephanie McMahon yet again playing her card that she knew that Triple H was going to interfere, when KO wins the belt because of the smirk that she had on her face, and don't tell me that you didn't see it, when she sends the second referee finally. Like, just the whole thing about the last 10 minutes of this match were just weird as hell.
The smirk on her face left a sour taste in my mouth, and the fact that I think it's going to lead to her aligning with Triple H against Seth Rollins. And that's going to give us heel Stephanie versus face Mick Foley for control of Raw, and we're right back to Austin and Bischoff in 2003 again. The thing about it is I think a lot of people were expecting interference in this match, but we were expecting it from a different party altogether, and that's kind of where my prediction for Hell in a Cell goes, in that this match does end up inside of Hell in a Cell. Foley makes it inside of Hell in a Cell, and then Triple H returns at Hell in a Cell to set up Team Triple H versus Team Rollins for Survivor Series.
I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I don't think Triple H interferes, because I think they want to try and save it for WrestleMania. If you pull it out, if you pull Triple H in at Hell in a Cell, I don't think you can make it the 6 months you would need.
Let me correct you slightly there. I don't think they could make it the 6 months they need. I think any capable booker could.
Oh, that's true. Which is why, personally, I think we go a little bit of a repeat of this year's Royal Rumble without it actually being. I think that's when we finally start to get full-blown Rollins versus Triple H, and I think Triple H cost Rollins the Rumble match. I think that's where we end up getting that, and we'll go from there with Rollins versus Triple H at Mania, because Survivor, I don't think Royal Rumble is big enough now for Rollins and Triple H, and I damn sure don't think Survivor Series would be big enough.
My only concern about this whole situation is that that's going to be the looming overhead question for Seth Rollins from now until whenever it does happen, is when is Triple H going to show up again? And the problem that I have with that is that it makes Triple H a focal point of a show that he's not even freaking on a day-to-day, on a week-to-week basis.
Because it's Triple H.
Well, for all the good that he's doing with NXT, and let's be honest, NXT has provided some of the best television this year in the WWE. When it comes to his involvement on Raw, it is yada, 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 King Ross.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that he is the focal point now. Because he is. He absolutely is. You know, why did he interfere? You know, why won't you tell the truth, Stephanie? I didn't know anything, and blah, blah, blah. But the whole thing with Rollins centers around Triple H, who's not there and hasn't been there since he interfered in the Fatal 4-Way. So the whole thing kind of stinks, and it's kind of sad that the champion of the brand, you know, I'll say second highest champion in the company, although you could say I'd rather have the Raw belt than the SmackDown belt, still plays second fiddle. Because he is. He's playing second fiddle to Rollins and Triple H.
Oh, 100% agree. And the problem, you know what it amounts to? Allow me to make a mildly outdated television reference here, but I'm sure this is one you should get. Did you watch The Simpsons?
Who the hell doesn't? I can't wait for the Thanksgiving Day marathon to start.
I got 2 words for you. You ready?
Yep.
Where's Poochie?
Triple H is indeed Poochie in this case.
Seth is itchy, Kevin is scratchy, Triple H is Poochie, and unfortunately, this entire storyline recently has revolved around where's Poochie.
Does that make Vince McMahon Homer in this case? Where's Poochie? People should be talking about what Poochie is doing. Where is he? What's he up to?
Yeah, well, Poochie needs to get back in his rocket and go back to his home planet in this instance here. Let Seth and Kevin have their run against each other. Don't have a bunch of screwy ref bump finishes. Don't have a bunch of Stephanie interference. Let 2 of the best wrestlers in your company go out there for 20 minutes, have a great match, and give Kevin Owens a win that helps legitimize that Universal title, rather than going with screw finish after screw finish.
Now, the argument can be made. Kevin is heel.
Okay, and your point is?
And a heel point of a heel is to win by the skin of his teeth, so that he gets his comeuppance later on. What did he do tonight? He won by the skin of his teeth.
Okay, but it's not going to be Seth Rollins giving Kevin Owens his comeuppance, so what's the point?
And then here's my other question. Chris Jericho interfered to all hell. Where the hell was Sammy?
Yeah, I thought that same thing too. Like, I was fully expecting when Jericho got in the ring and was trying to pull Seth out of the corner for Sammy to slide in and give him a haluva kick.
Yeah, that's probably the one biggest thing that I took away from that. I was like, instead of where's Poochie, it was where's Sammy? Because it seemed like that was a spot tailor-made for him. But I almost wonder, are they trying to just get Sammy and Kevin away from each other, period? Or are they trying to hold off Sammy and Kevin for something bigger? Do they let the two of them main event a pay-per-view now that they know what the two of them can do?
Here's a pretty crazy prediction for you. How about Sammy and Kevin for that title at Mania?
It wouldn't main event.
No, I agree, and it won't main event because Big Show versus Shaquille O'Neal is going to.
Oh, shut up.
You say that now, but see if how far away from wrong I actually am.
It's not going to main event. It's going to be Triple H and Rollins main eventing, most likely.
Damn it, Poochie, go back to your home planet. All right, sorry, I'm good.
Not only that, what the hell was I going to say?
And if we could find a mountain for JBL to climb, we'd be set.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, that's assuming that Kevin can even get past Bork Laser at the Rumble if that happens.
I've heard that they want the Universal title on Lesnar rumors too, and I hope to God they're not true.
Yep. Then you get one appearance between Rumble and Mania.
And you know what the worst part about it is who would beat Lesnar for the title? Because you know who Lesnar's facing at Mania this year. It shouldn't exactly be a gigantic secret at this point.
Orton?
Goldberg?
That's if they can agree on terms to get Goldberg to come back.
Yeah, Goldberg would be coming back for a one-off, so I don't imagine the terms would be that difficult. But, no. Anyways, and this is the problem with the way that the main event went there, is that it's leading us to the other discussions about where the interference is going to lead there, rather than us talking about how good of a match that Seth and Kevin actually had.
Which sucks, because the first 60% of the match before Jericho came out was awesome.
And a common theme tonight, indeed, tends to be that the matches themselves, excellent. The finishes, well, not so much.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Patrick?
Yes?
Not an official episode of W2 of Wrestling Unwrapped, but I feel it warrants what we've come to lovingly call a big finish, don't you?
I do believe so. So, do we do what we normally do on WooTueWeb, or do we just do our normal thing?
Oh, no, this is a Wrestling Unwrapped episode, sir. It's time for the big finish.
All right. And as always, best match and worst match. We'll kick things off first. Barry, what's your worst match of the night here?
Are we counting the pre-show?
No.
Oh, boo.
No fun for you. I could say something else, but that'll give away something about me.
No soup for you?
No.
I thought that was a Seinfeld. Seinfeld reference. Worst match to me tonight. Worst match to me tonight, unfortunately, was T.J. Perkins versus Brian Kendrick. 3 very noticeable screw-ups. The fact is that if that was the way that you're going to reestablish the Cruiserweight division, you may as well have not brought it back to Raw in the first place. Patrick, how about you? What's your worst match on the evening?
For me, I'd have to go with the opener for the tag team titles. Why are you not pulling the trigger on Gallows and Anderson? Is it really worth it having New Day break Demolition's record? And even if it is, why the hell is New Day breaking Demolition's record? You know, while at the same time you're making Gallows and Anderson kind of look like crap, and just take the damn belts. And just take the damn belts off New Day. Nobody cares about the belts record. Let's be honest, nobody does. Now, if you're not a hardcore fan, do you even realize who actually owns the record for the longest tag title reign?
I feel like they did it so New Day could get to 400 days. I wouldn't be surprised to see them switch the belts tonight on Raw, honestly. And by tonight on Raw, I mean that it is 1:46 a.m. here on the East Coast. So technically it is Monday here on the East Coast.
And in the Central Time Zone here in Chicago, too, because it's 12:46. So, anywho, moving on. Harry, what is your best match for the night?
Up into the finish, Cesaro and Sheamus. Those two beat the crap out of each other for the better part of about 20 minutes. And Cesaro literally almost killed himself for our viewing pleasure. That could have went so wrong on so many different levels. Again, the finish takes away from the match, obviously, recurring theme this evening. But of all the finishes that took away from the match, at least it was the one that protected both guys rather than doing something to advance a storyline for other people. So I'm going to go with Cesaro and Sheamus. Patrick, how about yourself? What's your best match on the evening?
I'm going to steal part of yours and say up until the finish, the main event. I thought, Kevin Owens for his first main event, I thought more than held his own because it seems like they're still kind of tentative to really let Kevin do anything despite the fact that he's the best talker, if not the best talker in the world right now, and we've seen what he can do with people that he trusts, like Sami Zayn and others that he's worked with in the past. And I thought, aside from the first maybe 5 minutes or so being kind of slow, I thought Kevin and Seth absolutely had a hell of a match. And, it could have been regarded, I personally think, as a classic. And then the interference, and then the half an hour that it seemingly took for a second referee to come out, and then that damn smirk on Stephanie's face, where she yet again placed the card. Yes, she knew Triple H was going to interfere. But even before that, I thought that KO and Seth were on their way to tearing a house down and actually had gotten the crowd back into it after they seemingly died a little bit during Rusev and Roman.
All right. Fair enough.
Excuse me, I hit space. Alrighty, so then we move on to our cash and our trash. This one should be pretty interesting because we don't usually do this on live shows.
Right.
So, since we started on the negative side first, why don't we start on the positive side with this one? So what is your cash for this show?
My cash for the show is the card that we had coming into it to begin with. And by that I mean, and I was talking to a bunch of people about this, and you were one of the people that I talked to about this here. It was an 8-match card tonight, right?
7 in the pre-show.
Right. But of those 8 matches for this particular card tonight, there is an argument that at least 4 of them and possibly 5 of them had the potential on paper to be 3.5 stars plus. So I think it is my opinion that Raw clearly got the better of the draft. Can I do my
question on that? Was there really any question? Yeah.
Can I do my trash with this though? Because it kind of ties together.
Yeah.
My trash is the fact that they had this super studded card that could have been a very high-end pay-per-view of the year quality caliber show and chose to go with that booking tonight. That is the biggest case of cutting the nose off despite the face booking I think I have ever seen from a WWE pay-per-view.
The fact that so many heels... Go ahead, sorry.
Every single major match that could have had a clean finish didn't. The 2 matches that didn't have clean finishes, that did have clean finishes, were irrelevant towards the grand scheme of Raw overall. And the other match that had a clean finish, in my opinion, the wrong guy won in the first place. There is no logical justification immediately reacting to this show for the way that the booking went this evening. I will be curious to see what happens on Raw tomorrow night. But that being said, I am not going to be nearly as optimistic going into the next pay-per-view, or the Raw exclusive pay-per-view, knowing what they did with the booking for tonight's show. Patrick, what's your cash?
Actually, somewhat hard-pressed to find one. Not even gonna lie. I do think that I'll make it this for their first brand-specific pay-per-view. Aside from a few of the finishes, I thought the pay-per-view still came off fairly well. Granted, the fact that half of your matches ended because of interference and more than half of your matches had interference, it does kind of put a bad taste in your mouth. But with the fact that, let's be honest, when was the last time there was an hour 45 minutes in a 3-hour pay-per-view? You know, something like that just does not happen. And I do like the fact that they made this a very wrestling-heavy show. I believe out of the 7 matches, only one, I'm trying to remember that I have this right, only one was less than 10 minutes, and I believe only 2 were less than 15 minutes. And I believe it was the last 5 matches were all over 15 minutes. So I do like the fact that, contrary to what a lot of people are thinking, they did still allow it to be more wrestling heavy. So I do applaud them on that. However, my trash for this is kind of similar to yours. It's the fact that they booked this pay-per-view for tomorrow. Because let's be honest, they booked the pay-per-view to try and get to Raw and try and build a Hell in a Cell with just one huge arcing storyline for everything. I'm sorry, but no pay-per-view should have that damn many interference spots. It's almost appalling how many. You had an interference spot in essentially your... Geez, it just doesn't make... Do you have an interference spot in 4 out of the 5 title matches? Tag title, U.S. title, you had Lana interfere to break up the count, although it didn't directly play into the finish. You had an interference spot, multiple, in the women's title match, and you had interference in the Universal title match. You should not have an interference in 80%. 80%, 4 out of 5 of your title matches. And not only that, your 5th damn title match, you had end how it did with Brian Kendrick headbutting TJP after the match. So, like you said, you had a chance of having a star-studded first pay-per-view here. And a lot of people complained that Backlash was kind of boring. Most of us, when we did Woo to M for that, didn't think it was a bad pay-per-view by any means. This pay-per-view should have blown it away. But they screwed themselves with all 5 title matches ending really goofy. 6th match is a matter of fact, you can find a fault in every damn match tonight. 4 title matches had an interference. The 5th title match ends with a headbutt from the heel after losing clean. The wrong guy won the match that was kind of a grand scheme of things kind of match. Sorry, but Jericho was the wrong guy to win. And you had the best of 7, the one for the title shot, and it ends in a draw. They screwed themselves. And I'd have to say, between Backlash and this, I would give First Blood to Backlash. I would say SmackDown had the better pay-per-view here. Because at least that one had a point. And that one finished some stuff off and then didn't have constant goofiness happen during every damn match. So I would say Backlash at least beats Clash.
I would argue that Backlash had the better feel-good moment, too, with Heath Slater and Rhino winning the tag titles on Backlash as well.
I would say they had two better feel-good moments because I would give Becky Lynch one also.
No, I agree. Then you won't get any arguments from me here. We're on the same page on this one.
So, all right. One final thing before we get out of here. That's our final score. This one should be awfully fun. Jerry, what is your final score for Clash of Champions?
Well, since they seemingly gave a crap about 70% of the pay-per-view, I think it's only appropriate to give the show a 7. And the 3 points that I'm taking away from the show have everything to do with the way the show was booked and nothing to do with the fault of the talent inside of the ring itself. How's that for an answer?
I'm kind of surprised you're going so high.
I was tempted to go 6.5, but I decided to go with 7.
No, I'm going even lower. I'm going with a 6. And not only that, I would actually have, I have problems even getting it that high. Because most of this pay-per-view just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know, I 100% said on the preview, and if anybody wants to go to W2Mnet.com and try to claim otherwise, I 100% said that Bayley being in the match reeked of her taking the fall. What the hell happened? She took the fall. You know, but Dana Brooke's constant interference in that match, Chris Jericho's interference in about the last third of the main event. It's just, the constant interference tonight is what bugs the hell out of me. Find another way to do it. You don't need interference taking more than half of your damn show. The wrong guy won Zayn versus Jericho. Once again, sorry, I know you're a huge Jericho fan, but the wrong guy won.
You're preaching to the choir. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's like, just finish off the damn best of 7 series. Just, damn it, pay something off tonight. It's a pay-per-view. Not like that's your first damn one. And that's how you treat your fans. Screw you. I'm not even going to give it a 6. I'm going to give it a 5. And I'm still lucky I even gave them that. Because it's basically going on this long until the final damn moment of almost every goddamn match tonight. And it bugs the hell out of me. It pisses me the hell off.
All right, Graham.
I know. Just, why? Why? Why do you have to slap your fans in the face like this? It bugs the hell out of me. So I'll go with my final score of 5.
Well, at least find Patrick's anti-anxiety medication. It is at this point that I remind you that tonight's episode of Wrestling Unwrapped has been brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. You know the deal by now if you've been listening to the show. And if you decide to make a purchase through the Madhouse Toy Chest, mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped, and you'll receive a free gift with your purchase. That's stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest.
I'm okay.
Good, because you got to wrap us up here. Plug our various sponsors, plug our various locations, plug our network, you know, that kind of fun stuff. Do your hosting responsibilities.
Oh, well, thank you, Harry. And yes, this has been a special edition of Wrestling Unwrapped /Blue2M, with just Harry and Patrick, as we were talking the first Raw pay-per-view of the new era with WWE Clash of the Champions. If you want to hear more from Harry, from myself, or from any of the W2M guys, be sure to head over to W2Mnet.com. Or you can find us on almost any podcast location that you can think of, Spreaker, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and Leave. Blueberry, basically any major podcast site you can think of, you will find us there, even on YouTube. And as always, this is a presentation of the W2M Network and brought to you in partnership with 411media.com and Last Sport on Sports.com. As far as Harry and myself, Harry, are we finally going to cover next Sunday what we were supposed to cover last Sunday until somebody, not naming names, fell asleep?
Yeah, we're not pointing elbows or anything. But yeah, we might as well talk about what we're going to cover back in our regular time slot next week real quick here.
So indeed, so be sure to join Harry and myself as we finally, after over 2 months of waiting, will finally cover NCW Femme Fatales 5, main evented by an international dream match for the NCW Femme Fatales International Championship as the champion Lufisto takes on Ayaka Hamada, and not only that, Cat Power takes on Courtney Rush in a street fight, and we got to deal with Anna Manushka one more time.
Anna Manushka fish.
She really sucks. Anyway. So that will be back at our normal time slot, hopefully, of 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Sunday night here on the W2M Network.
If you'll excuse me, Patrick, I'm going to do my best Rusev impersonation and go watch something. Why don't you thank our location so we can get out of here?
Yeah, we should. So we are finally on time after taking over an hour and a half, talking about 7 damn matches. So,
well, I mean, we're close to an hour and a half.
Anyway, for Harry Broadhurst.
That's me.
And for Sean Garmer, who's actually the producer of the show, but I'm trying to keep him awake right now. Won't even lie. Go to work,
Wake
Sean.
up, Sean. Wake up, Sean. We're almost done here.
Yeah. So for Harry Broadhurst, I am the 369th in the world best predictor of NFL football games, Patrick Hetza. You've been listening to a special edition of Wrestling Unwrapped, talking about WWE Clash of Champions here on the W2M Network. We will see you next Sunday. The rest of the W2M guys, we'll see you tomorrow after Raw.
This